About a year ago, I was introduced to True Niagen, a supplement specifically designed to boost a key cellular resource called NAD. That's short for nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. And I was really impressed with the research that showed that increased NAD levels can promote cellular repair, maintain healthy mitochondria, and increase energy throughout the trillions of cells in our body. I've been taking True Niagen ever since, and I am truly persuaded, which is why I'm so excited to welcome them back to the program. Let's get into how True Niagen works. From age 40 to 60, humans can experience a 50% decline in NAD, leaving our cells with a shortage of that incredibly valuable energy resource. Additionally, things like immune stress, poor diet, even alcohol consumption can all deplete our cell NAD levels. Research suggests that increased NAD can support cellular defense against these physiological stressors. True Niagen is designed to boost NAD levels and is backed by clinical research and regulatory approvals. Now, while the research is still evolving, I am truly impressed by the possibilities surrounding NAD and the research behind True Niagen. And I suggest you check out their information for yourself. To learn more about the research, science, and to order your supply of True Niagen supplement, visit drdrew.com/True Niagen and use the code DREW at checkout for a special discount on orders of 3 bottles or more. So that's my website, drdrew.com/TRUNIAGEN, and use the code DREW today.
Hey everyone, it's a dose of Dr. Drew.
Hey guys, welcome. I'm seeing lots of calls for Sorrento conversation, and you tell me what you know. I know what the sort of the headlines are, that they have an antibody that might be effective at neutralizing the coronavirus, but I don't know if I've seen human studies on this or that I've seen certainly phase 3 trials on it. I'm getting weird echoes, Susan. I'm not sure if that means anything. So you guys tell me if you've heard anything or a place I can look to see the actual peer-reviewed data. My suspicion is it's not peer-reviewed yet, at least. So
That is weird. That
always be very cautious of announcements prior to peer review. Now, there may be some sort of component of this that does have a peer-reviewed piece of it, and I'd love to read that. So again, those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, there was on our stream here, a lot of people are calling for Sorrento, and that's a biotech company that had made an announcement yesterday that they, it was a crazy, ballsy claim, as you put, Patrick, from the Sorrento CEO, that he had a antibody that could neutralize the virus all the time. Again, I don't know how he could call it a cure if we don't have the human studies on it yet. So I'm just wondering about it. So please, if you know something that I don't, direct me to that research, and I will be happily head on down that path. The data has not been updated from the University of Washington, though there's certainly been no evidence that we have reverse trends. There was a particle that came out this morning I saw that showed all the different hospitalization rates declining in about 40 states or staying the same, and it looks really strong. The interesting thing for me, I wouldn't call it proof, but I would just say it's an interesting observation that Georgia, as we said before, as they opened up, we said if there were to be a case of the worst case scenario, in other words, the worst time to open a state, Georgia chose it. Now, mind you, they had very few cases to begin with, so it's not like they had a lot to chase, but they had very few cases, and they opened right when their cases were accelerating. So it suggests that things should have continued to accelerate. Instead, they plateaued and then turned on down, which is, again, when people talk about science of shutdown, there is no science that I'm aware of. There's no actual science. There's speculation, there's models, much like we talk about weather models. Actually predicting the future and actually calling it science, though, is a little bit inaccurate. It's a scientific discipline. I will give you that. It's a mathematical discipline. But what we don't know is whether social distancing, and be careful when people say social distancing, they're using that term both to mean people staying apart from one another and people staying home. Those are two different circumstances. Those are two different concerns. And they may not be different in terms of the impact on the spread of the virus. Proper mask, proper distancing may be the same as and hand washing may be the same as staying at home. Now, you asked about masks. Somebody at the beginning was asking, can I get headaches and fatigue from the masks? No, you cannot. Unless you have CO2 retaining emphysema. If you are a hypercapnic emphysematous patient, well, that's a different story. But the average person does not accumulate CO2 unless they are engaged in like a triathlon. Then I would not suggest you wear something over your mouth. But in terms of getting out in the world, wear the mask. Wear the mask.
Somebody said some sailors are reinfected.
Sailors are reinfected.
5 sailors reinfected.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
Because every time I've seen a reinfection story, it was not a reinfection. It was just a reemergence of a not yet cleared infection. So people have second experience, they can have a relapse.
That's what Dr. Yadigar said.
That there's relapses.
They would get better, and then all of a sudden they would just crash, right?
Oh, that's a little different thing. Well, it's 3 different things. So he was talking about people getting better and then having cytokine storm. They were not out of the hospital yet.
Oh.
I'm talking about people who go home, feel fine, and then start feeling crappy again and have a full relapse of the syndrome. That happens. There's a 3rd condition, which is a more complicated group, which is people, hi, Savannah, Georgia, people who get things like the Kawasaki syndrome, which is again, similar to the cytokine activation storm. It's a little different, though. The children primarily get that, which is this vasculitis, Kawasaki syndrome, or they get strokes, or they get, some of the late complications? People can have nerve damage. People can have blood clots of various types. I mean, these can come late. They can come late, even when the thing has long passed by a few weeks. So.
Cuomo said there were 100 kids that they're watching right now.
Correct, with Kawasaki's. And Kawasaki's is a classic childhood illness. I don't have a lot of experience with it because I'm not a pediatrician. I did see it when I was taking care of kids. It's that common that just an average medical student would run across it. However, I spoke to Dr. Oz about this, and he used to treat the vasculitis when it got into complications, and he said it's a relatively rare thing, no big deal, properly treated. So the key is...
how do we know this thing doesn't do something different? Because we haven't had that much experience.
So the question is, could the COVID cause a different kind of Kawasaki's, which is a viable question. Thus far, it does not look like that. It's response to treatment, and treated early, Kawasaki's is no big deal. So the key is... what they're pushing out there for everybody is all the signs and symptoms. So you identify it and take the kids to the doctor.
Don't wait.
And don't wait. And that's the end of that. You'll take care of it. So.
Yeah, but at least we know what to look for.
What do you think? What are you saying?
I mean, they're telling us what to look for. Like, I got a notice from one of my apartments in New York, and they said they gave us the rundown of what to look for in your kids.
Right.
I mean, they sent out the CDC sent it out, so they sent it to everybody who lives in the apartment building.
Right, in New York.
Yeah.
Because that's where the outbreak was.
Upper West Side.
No, it was actually Governor Cuomo's office that was pushing that out, and that was good. That's the right thing to do. So be aware and take kids in.
I didn't get that here.
No, because we've really not had any cases.
We don't have an HOA here.
Right. We also haven't had really any outbreaks of this yet. I mean, the outbreak in California has been so
We
limited.
are the HOA, Drew.
So let's remind ourselves. Let's go back to California. In California, we ended up at our peak hospitalizing at the absolute most 2,600 people. Okay, 2,600 people. We were anticipating 26 to 28,000. Okay, so we overdid it. We overshot by a factor of 10. Depending how you look at the data. They also predicted that there would be 2 million dead. We had 5,000 dead. So what do we miss that one by a factor of 40? They predicted in California we would have something like, 12 million cases, 20 million cases. We ended up with, in the highest estimates, 10,000 cases at the peak. Total cases, let me get you that here by looking at that. Let's go to California. Total case number in California is 73,000. So, and they predicted, what was it? How many millions? 20 million? It's 12 million or something. So again, we overshot by factors of somewhere between 10 and 50. Might there have been a better way to navigate this, particularly given, that's the question, particularly given that staying at home we don't know is measurably different than going out with a mask and social distancing. So it's kind of an interesting situation we have. Now, it's also possible that the reason that we're doing better is because of the season. That maybe it's possible that just the summer coming has made it better. So that's always a possibility. That's a possibility in Georgia too. But if you remember, we said we would look at Georgia as a canary in the coal mine. So, okay. What do you guys have out there? Let me look at your questions.
Somebody said Tijuana is having problems in Mexico. South San Diego Hospital is starting to get overwhelmed last couple of days.
Oh, that's in. So people coming up from San Diego sick.
Or
Up
people
from Mexico sick.
Or people going into San Diego too that are not.
Is Christopher telling you about that?
Yeah, I just saw that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we haven't checked Mexico or the border of San Diego.
I will look in just a second. The California is certainly not going up by itself, but that would be interesting if that's where they're getting some of the cases from. Let's look at I can look at Baja specifically. I can't look at Tijuana, but I can look at Baja. Doesn't look like anything is dramatic. Let's see
It was on KFI. Somebody mentioned
estimated number of cases.
Is that the channel Gina works on, or
she does? Yep, around 5,000 estimated cases. Of course, my computer's freezing. Daily deaths are still increasing though, so that may be where maybe there's a lag there. Maybe there is something coming on that we just don't see in this data.
So we're going to be having a mystery diagnosis and name that medication in a little while. So stick around and you can win some Dr. Drew merch.
Also, they do not have that many hospital beds in Baja California. They only have about 1,000 hospital beds, and there are about 1,000 people sick with this. So they are challenged in terms of meeting their demand. That may be why they're coming up to San Diego. So that's interesting.
Who's Dr. Butter?
Who can tell me?
Utar.
I don't know.
T-T-A-R. Somebody asked why don't we interview him?
Okay.
We'll look him up. I'll write it down.
I'm trying to see what you've got in your thread. Is there anything of interest that you'd like to talk about today, you guys? Or we can keep this thing kind of short. Will the virus reappear in the fall? In all likelihood, it will make a resurgence in the fall, unless the Sorrento CEO is on to something in which he can provide us with, each of us with immunity with antibodies, unless there is some sort of extraordinary breakthrough with the vaccine, which is a finite possibility, but not likely. And Tony 21323, whatever, I do see you there. I don't know what you're talking about though. Miha finished grad school, affect dysregulation and addiction. Oh, very cool. Good for you. That's a big problem with addiction. Tennessee announcement from today. Donovan, what did they announce? How is Minnesota doing? Let's take a look. I saw some data earlier. It looked like it was doing awfully well, but let's see. Minnesota has, it's still peaking in terms of its hospital utilization, though it's peaking at a very low rate of about 800. Let's see, the total deaths, 2,000. The deaths per day are still going up, so, but looks like it's plateauing right about now. Number of cases also, you're sort of in it right now. Minnesota, for some reason, is right in the middle of it, it looks like. You don't have that many cases. You're at about 800 cases confirmed, but they are not, they're not going down yet. Minnesota is moving about. You are not having your moving about. All non-essential businesses are still closed, it looks like, but you can gather a bit and that sort of thing. So one of the things that the University of Washington gives us is this graph that shows you the movement of the population. And the Minnesotans are moving a lot more than, say, the Californians, moving around more. Okay. Will COVID set the stage for mitigation protocol in regards to the next global pandemic? Good question. Good question. Am I still aboard with Dr. Fauci? Yes, I'm all on board with Dr. Fauci. I've, again, been working at the hem of his skirt since 1983, and happily so. And I knew when I was saying that the press needed to shut up that we needed the words of Dr. Fauci and the CDC, and we should follow that. And let's remind ourselves, the CDC never recommended shutdown. They never recommended shutdown. They recommended social distancing. And let's not confuse social distancing and shutdown. Those are two very different things. Shutting down businesses, isolating in place, those are far-reaching measures beyond mere social distancing. So the real question is, was that necessary? Might there have been a more rational, intermediate step to take? Close some businesses, close some schools, isolate nursing homes. Might that have been a more sophisticated way to do this? And given that in California, we overshot by somewhere between a factor of 10 and 50, evidence suggests we did a great job, and maybe we did too good a job, depending on how bad our economy is hit. Trying to give blood donations will also get tested for COVID. You will not get tested for COVID unless they have a special enticement. The Red Cross is talking about testing for antibody and COVID as a way of getting you in to give blood. But you can give blood safely now. Please do give blood. And they will not test your blood for COVID because it is not a bloodborne illness. It does not pass with blood. Massachusetts, I'm looking, somebody asked about Massachusetts and Connecticut. You are now in the downslope, quite sort of an abrupt downslope, really. Something's going right in Massachusetts. The deaths are still lagging a bit, daily deaths. The hospital resource is dropping. You peaked out at around 2,600 beds. We're now at about 1,900 beds. In terms of Connecticut, let's see where they're at, because both Massachusetts and Connecticut were in the fog of war there for a while. About the same in Connecticut, though you didn't need as many beds. They have a strange way of showing these graphs where it looks like Connecticut is worse, but it actually is not. About the same, though, in the daily deaths, and about the same in the documented and estimated cases. Would like to see both Massachusetts and Connecticut accelerate their testing rates. That's a pretty stable slope they've got on that. Seems like it should be a little more aggressive to me. So be that as it may. Nursing home thing is a multi-state scandal. Anyone that works in a nursing home would tell you that the viral illnesses roar through nursing homes. It's just what happens. It happens every year. And maybe we're going to change the way we do nursing homes now. As I've said before, think long and hard, each one of you, whether or not you ever want to be in a nursing home. Now, I'm not talking about recovering from a surgery for a couple of weeks. I'm saying if you become so physically debilitated or neurologically impaired that you need what's called institutional support, you need people to pick you up, feed you, typically two people to turn you and move you. Personally, I would like to check out when that happens. I would not like to be sustained in that suspended animation state any period of time at all. The interesting question is whether my current self, unwilling to be treated in that manner, should have priority over any future self that feels differently. So you can always change your mind. But I would argue that you should really think long and hard about whether you ever want to be cared for in a nursing home. And then once you are at that age that you're so debilitated, whether you're in a nursing home or not, whether you want people to hospitalize you for anything, let alone put you on a ventilator. So be careful about that. Make your wishes known and make them known in writing if you possibly can. Fauci is not the devil, guys. He is not.
Should Vegas open up the casinos?
If they have proper distancing, again, if we can actually distance ourselves and wear the masks and things, I don't know. We'll see. Kay, you were a biotech investor and you think Sorrento is full of hype. That would make sense, wouldn't it? Because I would think if the Sorrento actually had a story where they were actually able to cure a coronavirus infection or COVID-19, I think I would know about it. So we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, Monique, I agree. It's like suspended animation. That's exactly how I would describe to family members when they were insisting on keeping people alive. I would say, I can keep people alive indefinitely in sort of a suspended state. It's not, the tissue is alive technically, but the person is not. And so really think about that. I think one thing I'm hoping this episode did for us is get people to think more realistically about their biological basis. All these guys in Silicon Valley are, I'm going to live to 120. You've never seen a 90-year-old. Go around, live with a 90-year-old, and tell me you want to live to 120. And believe me, 90 is 90 no matter how you parse it. That's just the way the cell senescence plays out. Now, whether something like True Niagen or some other anti-senescence can prolong things a few years, maybe, or I don't know. But once you get into the 90s, I'm sure pretty much everybody gets senescence, and that's that. Do I think testing is a scam? No, I do not. Reality, I'm not quite sure what you're asking. Reality, not fiction.
How about sex?
Well, I'm not sure what he's asking. Is he with somebody you know or somebody you don't know?
When you're 90? Not really.
That's not really happening. That's not happening typically. Who is cutting your hair? The lady behind the mask here, behind the camera. Finally, took a little convincing.
I don't like doing it. Did I do a good job? I think I did your bangs a little crooked, though.
Oh, great. A red pill, the lack of basic immune building due to sheltering in space is going to have a huge rebound effect. I'm not sure if it's lack of immune building, but there could be a rebound effect from not having sun, from not being out of doors, from not having vitamin D. Do ventilators permanently damage the patient? They can. They can damage your lungs, and they also put you, they put you out on Michael Jackson's milk, on propofol for extended periods of time, and that can have neurological effects. Tips on gout. There's lots of tips on gout. Depends what kind of gout and how old you are and that sort of thing. There are medications that precipitate gout. There are medications that can reduce the risk of gout. And you should be taking those if you have recurrent gout. Otherwise, you should be managing your diet and try to eliminate purines and pyrimidines, particularly purines, though. Do I think buffets are over? Susan, what do you think?
Yeah, I was never a big fan of the buffet anyway. So.
What?
You are. I know that one in Vegas at the Cosmos, like your favorite place in the world.
I know, it'd be very
I was starting to dig it too, but I tend to not eat out of like areas where there's just like a big pile of food. I try to get like stuff off the hot plates or something that's made behind, and they give you. I always get a little creeped out, but
yeah,
it's just going to change the way Las Vegas is. It's going to be weird.
Two things. JH, have I treated COVID patients with only gastric symptoms? I have not been a direct treatment of only gastric symptoms. I have read about cases like that. I've heard of cases like that. Somebody asked another good question.
Supplantation is goner.
Yeah, I think that. Oh, the Michael Yo with Joe Rogan. I did not hear that one. Maybe you guys can tell me what you want me to know about that.
Also, I have to tell a story about supplantation. I was never a fan of that. Our football team went to it before a big game, and they all got diarrhea halfway through the game.
Right. So those kinds of
throwing up.
Yeah, those kinds of buffets have always been known to be potential transmitters of foodborne illnesses, of which COVID is not a foodborne illness, but it is us touching the same utensils and things like that. And so that's
terrible.
That's what's rough. Antidepressants that do not make an older person experience cognitive loss. Yes, any antidepressant can actually improve cognition in the elderly. It can also cause problems. So you have to, MZ Remington, you have to have a psychiatrist that has skill in treating elderly patients. It's not the usual. It's not like treating a young person. Also, people have mood disturbances when they're older. Sometimes that's a neurological problem or small strokes, that kind of thing. So you really have to kind of know what you're doing. It's not as simple as, does this medication cause cognitive loss or not? I get propofol when I get a colonoscopy. I know it's pretty good, right? I do too. You just forget about what's happening. The vitamins, Rhonda Patrick is saying vitamin D deficiency is causing people to get COVID. Here's what we know. People with low vitamin D level may be at risk for complication. That's all we know. That's really all we know. We also know that that does not mean that normal vitamin D protects you, nor does it mean that excessive vitamin D does anything. However, we know that vitamin D is good for a range of medical problems. It is good for your immune function. And it's hard to push your vitamin D levels up. It's not as simple as getting supplementation. I mean, that's part of it. So I think the better part of valor is, yes, take vitamin D. I think that's a reasonable thing. You should already be on vitamin D. So that's that. That's my general opinion. Update on the nicotine story. I've not seen any update on that. So I'm guessing that that didn't bear much fruit. Benzodiazepines, Tommy, should not. I mean, you never say never in medicine, but with Alzheimer's, it can be really bad. It can make things worse. Yes, it can make them fall. It can make them more confused. It can make them agitated. So, yeah. Ibuprofen caused Michael Yo to get sicker. They didn't put him on a ventilator because the machine tells the body, well, it's not that simple. But yes, the ibuprofen story has been complicated and might make people more prone to getting complications.
Somebody wanted to know if our boys won that game. No, they didn't, because halfway through the game, they all started throwing up and pooping themselves, and they lost. They were in it for the fight. They were doing great, but they lost, unfortunately.
I just remember they were pretty upset and
It
sick.
was awful.
Okay.
I'm laughing out of anxiety.
I think nicotine is a useful compound but shouldn't be smoked. Well, Patrick, that's a very complicated statement, and I agree with you. I think we should be able to use nicotine as a therapeutic product for a lot of different things. We don't, because people confuse nicotine and tobacco. Those are two different things. Nicotine happens to be in tobacco, and it makes people want to use tobacco. Nicotine doesn't cause any health consequence of note, except maybe a rapid heartbeat. And it's addictive. You can get hooked on it, but it doesn't cause addiction per se, because there's no progression, there's no consequences, that sort of thing. Vitamin D is very important. I think I'm addicted to the sun. Noticed a sore throat more often, changing the masks every day. I suspect that's just due to the dryness than really. Okay. Susan, do you want to do a little T-shirt run here?
So today I was thinking we should turn our T-shirts into face masks. So I went online and I found this guy who, his name is Cecil Rue Taekwondo. He has a Taekwondo company, and he did this amazing video of how different ways to wear your T-shirt. I think he's showing, it's a tutorial for his kids because they don't want to wear masks or whatever. So he was telling you like how to wrap these T-shirts around your face, and I had so much fun with it. So
you're gonna show your picture now? Come on now, come on. Show
so anyways,
the picture.
this is we're gonna have Andy Dick in here on Sunday. I'm gonna make sure he wears one of these while he's on the show. But this was I'm actually thinking about turning some of these into face masks. I think it would be great. But in the meantime, let's just use the ones we have in any way we can. And check out Cecil Rue. He's amazing. He can show you how to wear the T-shirt in many different ways.
So the question I have is, did you show your picture up
there?
Yeah,
I'm up there right now. And
okay,
you'll
good.
also get a package of Hydrolite in any flavor that you want. And we're going to do mystery diagnosis first.
Okay. So this is a complication. You're going to have to watch the stream there, Susan.
Okay.
Okay.
Hold on. I got to look for I've got my phone going. Hold on a second. Sorry.
Okay. It harkens from eating pork, but it's not the primary infection. It's actually this thing gets into you, and its eggs are then released in larval form into other tissues in your body. It's a leading cause has many times a leading cause of seizure in the Southern California area, because it was coming up from Central America. We've seen it. We used to laugh about it when I was in training, because they would put it as the last, late cause of seizure, and we're like, gee, we see it almost every week, so it's very common. So how are we doing? Anybody coming close?
Not yet. Well, somebody said trichinosis, but
no,
I've heard of that.
It's not trichinosis, but you're getting into the right zone with this. Again, this is
you can get it at a soup plantation.
No, you're not likely to do that.
I'm sorry, they're already out of business, so it's not like we're going to hurt them at this point.
Yeah, it's you may have no symptoms for years. It can go into other tissues than the brain, though the classic thing is in the brain. I don't know how else to not give this away.
I see somebody, but
okay.
Just wait. They're on Periscope, so if anybody comes up with it on another channel, Periscope was first this time.
So they got it?
Well, there's a time lag. Like YouTube has their little head, but it looks like Periscope got one.
Okay, I'm gonna
If you're on a different platform and you get it too, I'm going to give you a couple more minutes.
yeah, Christine got it. But I will tell you that it's from the pork tapeworm, and it's not the proglottids that you release in your stool. It's something that gets loose in your body, ends up sometimes in your brain and causes seizure. And it's the larvae there that grow in your brain, quite literally. And then it has a different name. What we call it something different when it does that.
Good job, Christine.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. So it's Christine again. She
Well,
spelled it better this time, sort of.
But she's on Periscope.
It is a tapeworm, Kirtland, but you need
Okay,
to. There it
somebody
is.
got it
Isaac Martin got it.
Where's-
Isaac Martinez.
On which
And
channel?
Isaac Martinez is on Facebook, and then Christopher Heidemann on YouTube.
I have, let's see. Let
K
me
with
go
a,
back up
Christopher
here.
with a K.
Wait, I'm going to go up here.
H
I think,
Heidemann.
no, I think you got your, okay.
So
JH got it on YouTube.
all right. So you're
He's
gonna.
above. Okay, let me look at this and then.
Okay, she's gonna sort out who got it.
Okay, you can take a couple more questions.
All right. We're going to do a medication. It's an easy one this time. I was told not to take Hydrolite because of high blood pressure. Jeff, if you have out of control blood pressure, that is true because that's a big sodium load and you want to watch your sodium intake. So talk to your doctor about that. I have hypertension, I use Hydrolite. It's never affected my blood pressure. And particularly when I'm getting dehydrated working out, that it makes some sense.
Or when you get your colonoscopy.
When I get my colonoscopy, I get low blood pressure and it saves me. I feel terrible.
Okay, so
It's not cryptosporidiosis, Alice. Cryptosporidiosis is a fungus that particularly gets into the spinal column, causes a meningitis. But it can also get in the stool. Cryptococcus, rather, is in the, I beg your pardon, you're right, Cryptosporidium is in the stool.
wait,
But it doesn't cause the cysticercosis.
is the neuro? Oh no, that's not. I'm looking for the Facebook person.
Borrelia burgdorferi.
Oh, there it
Doesn't
is,
that
Isaac.
cause relapsing fever? Let's look it up. Borrelia burgdorferi, Bacteroides spirochete, genus Borrelia.
Okay, so JH on YouTube. You need to email us at drdrew.com/contact and give us your size
Oh,
if we
it's Lyme
still have it
disease.
around, and the flavor of Hydrolite with your address. And then Christine of Periscope, go ahead and do the same, drdrew.com/contact. And then Isaac on Facebook,
Okay.
same. But give me your size and the flavor of Hydrolite that you want. And what is it called, Drew?
What's what called? Cysticercosis.
Yes.
And we used to laugh about it when we were in training because we'd see so much of it, and all the textbooks said it was exceedingly rare. You'll never see it. We saw tons of it back in the day. So let's get into new medication. You ready for that, Susan?
Okay, and then this one we're just going to do the first person that does it. So just because that was a hard one, I gave it out to everybody.
Cysticercosis was a hard one?
Well, it looks like the person on Periscope got it first, so let's just do one person on this one.
Okay.
Because I'll run out. Until I get my T-shirts in, I can't give them all away today.
Okay.
All right. The flavor choices. Oh, let's tell them the flavor choices. For
It
Hydrolite.
is lemon, orange, and what is the other one?
Raspberry.
Raspberry. I want to make sure I get this. Okay.
Okay.
I want to make sure I get this just right. Hold on here. I think I'm going to screw this up. Because if I don't tell you the exact mechanism, you're going to think of other medicines. Maybe I ought to just use the whole class.
Cheetos and Hydrolite are amazing.
Who said that?
Red Rocket. Kind of reminds me of my dad. He used to drink bourbon and Gatorade. I was like, ugh, that sounds terrible.
Hold
Yeah.
on here.
The lemonade is really tasty. The orange is good. I like the raspberry as well. I use it all the time. I love it. And I think they're going to be our sponsor in July. So everybody go to Hydrolite, drdrew.com/Hydrolite and buy some, because then we'll keep them as our sponsor and we can keep giving out goodies to everybody. I'm digging this. I'm digging this giveaway stuff.
I know.
I'm sorry. It just makes me feel good about myself.
Good.
You know?
Okay, well, I like that.
I'm trying to contribute.
You know, I'm having trouble making sure that I give you the right mechanism of action of this
Okay.
compound. So
All right.
maybe I'm going to try something.
Pick a different one.
Yeah, I'm going to try something even easier.
Okay, send me the link. I'm going to also quickly mention what we're doing this weekend
Go ahead.
while you're doing that. Okay. We have a show coming, a call-in show with Ask Dr. Drew, where you can call in on Sunday at 3 p.m. We're going to have the great Andy Dick back. He's actually going to come in the studio and wear his T-shirt on his face while he's here interviewing with Tom Arnold. And then Simona Maggiante and her husband, George Papadopoulos, will be also.
This is Sunday?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
We're doing, well, here's the backstory. Okay, so Simona and George were on our show. And then she ended up meeting Tom Arnold on his show. And then she called me and said, I want to get Tom Arnold on the show with me. And I said, okay. And then she did a thing with Andy Dick, and she said, I want to get on a show with Andy Dick and me. I said, okay, well, let's just do all three of you and have your husband on too, since he's in quarantine with her, so I might as well throw him into the mix, right? So we're going to be with all of Simona's guys.
Okay.
Okay? Is that all right?
Yeah, it's exciting. It'll be fun.
It should be fun. There's
There'll
a lot
be
of things we can.
A lot of stuff going on. Okay, so here's the medicines, and it should be an easy one for you guys. Susan, I guess I don't know. I'm texting you the name. There's lots of names of these medications. So I'm gonna give you a few of them here.
Okay.
And some of them are trade names, and some of them are. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna describe it. And then I'm gonna watch the thread myself.
Okay.
This has been
just the first one. We're not going to do all.
This is I wanted to focus on a medication that was related to COVID, right? And so this class of medicine has been in the news a lot because of the way COVID gets into our blood, our human cells, and animal cells generally, for that matter. Normally, angiotensin 1 is converted to angiotensin 2 by the angiotensin converting enzyme. There are medications that inhibit that. They've been around for quite some time. They're good for heart failure. They're good for high blood pressure. They can be used in diabetic nephropathy sometimes, but they are an important class of medication. They're a relative of the other class, the ARBs. Zoe, you got the class. Give me got one. Mitchell got one.
Where?
Mitchell Edquist. And I'm sorry, Zoe, you put the class. I need the name of a medication. Paula, that's the ARB you're mentioning, but we got it with Mitchell Edquist.
What platform?
Facebook. He got it. I said lisinopril, which is an angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor. It's sort of a classic one. And all the ones that ends in pril and allopril, those sorts of things are all the ACE inhibitors, different than the ARBs, which have also been implicated. And people have been wondering whether the ARBs are also impairing or affecting our ability to fight off the COVID. It looks like a non-issue. Both the ACE inhibitors and the ARBs, the instructions we're getting from our professional societies is just keep people on these medicines. I'm on an ARB myself, and I will continue on it.
I did not understand one thing you said for the last 5 minutes. I'm still trying to figure out what the name of it is.
Lisinopril is what Mitchell got. It's the angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor class. So Vasotec, lisinopril, enalapril.
Good job, Mitchell.
Captopril, you got it. Losartan is a little different. I didn't see anybody else come in with anything sooner than that. So Mitchell got it. You got him?
Yes.
So there we go.
So email me at drdrew.com/contact and just mention that you are the one and give me your size, the flavor of Hydrolite you want, and we'll get it out to you as soon as possible.
So
and your address.
The COVID virus binds at an ACE receptor on the surface of the particular line of your nose and lungs, and as such gains access to the cell. It actually has a cofactor, which is an androgen-dependent protein next to that ACE protein, and they are showing that people that are on androgen deprivation, such as prostate cancer patients, have a significant reduction in the virus getting into the cells. So there's actually field of study going on right now, looking at whether or not somehow modulating that receptor, either through deprivation, deprivation, or otherwise affecting the androgen receptor, could reduce the risk of infection. It's a very hot area of research right now. They noticed that some of the prostate cancer patients that are on things like Lupron and these anti-androgen medication were less likely to get infected. If they got infected, they got less severe illness. So the ACE receptor site has been very much in the news. Because of that, there was some speculation. So, Susan, I'm repeating what I said here. The angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors and the angiotensin receptor blockades should be maybe abandoned in the setting of this COVID outbreak. It was looked at very carefully, and it looks like they have no real effect on the probability that the virus gets in the cells. Indeed, when you're on one of these ARBs or ACE inhibitors, the ACE receptor site is upregulated, so you actually have more of that protein on the surface, but it turns out you're less likely to have that receptor, although higher in density now, less likely for it to come inside the cell, so it sort of balances itself out. So there you go.
Please don't ask me if he's a real doctor.
Did that make more sense?
No, but you are a real doctor. That just proves it right there, because I have no freaking idea what you just said.
Okay.
But I love you.
Okay. Brown Hulk, we are doing fine. So my high blood pressure meds could protect me from COVID. No, Amanda, it seems to be a non-issue either way. That's the point. And that's if you're on an ACE or an ARB. Cut out sugar from my diet, but I'm feeling sick, lightheaded, and pounding headache and nausea. Mono moonfox, that may be a different problem. I mean, I would talk to your doctor about that. I mean, you may be getting sick. Number two, you can get a full-blown, essentially, hair opiate withdrawal. I know I feel terrible when first 3 days coming off carbohydrates. I feel very strange. So, but don't make assumptions unless you talk to your doctor. Thank you, Rhonda. Appreciate that.
I wonder if the Sand Mini people would give us a giveaway.
The Sand Mini, maybe they would.
I wonder if True Niagen would.
Niagen would, I would think. I would think that would be something we should do. Talk to Ken about that. Okay. Yeah, Keith, some people call that the keto flu. That's exactly right. But I noticed I get that kind of keto flu-like phenomenon whether I'm in ketosis or just off carbohydrates. It doesn't seem to make a difference for me. But one thing I noticed, the reason I know it's like an opiate withdrawal, the one symptom of opiate and benzodiazepine and alcohol withdrawal, for that matter, that people don't talk about, that is actually the worst symptom that addicts really are experiencing. They don't even complain about it because they're just in it, is a feeling of desperation. Just this feeling of gotta go, gotta get out of here, gotta move. And I get that when I'm coming off carbohydrates. So is it realistic that a vaccine will be found by the end of the year? I don't know about realistic, but it's a possibility. It's finite. It's a finite possibility. Whether it's realistic or not, I don't know. There's also some talk about first responders getting it in the fall. We will see. I'm working with a company that's working on some technologies that may be better at documenting immunogenicity from vaccines than anything we've had before. So I'm hoping that research bears out in phase 2 trials. But it's looking like you can take a blood test and say that person's immune, rather than waiting however many months to see if proper antibody response is met. Have I heard any word about the death rate on COVID? Clara, I'm not sure what the question means. I mean, are we filling out the death certificates accurately? There's some concern about that.
Or the percentage.
But we've created a convention that if you die of anything and have a COVID infection, and I don't know temporally, if it's in any way related to the death, it goes down as a COVID death. You may die of a heart attack, you may die of a stroke, but the COVID infection was part of the illness, then it goes down as a COVID death. What I've heard of, I don't know if this is accurate or not, I've heard rumor that doctors are being encouraged to use a COVID diagnosis, and there's a whole financial incentive because the federal government wanted hospitals to be reimbursed for care of the COVID patients, so they made it more advantageous financially to have a COVID diagnosis. So... okay, so you guys, I'm running out of steam here. Whoop, I can't hear you
It's
there.
only been 43 minutes. You just had a busy day, right? What
I
have you
can
been
keep-
doing lately? Which other shows have you been on recently, Drew, that you can tell people to go listen to?
I'm going to do Megan Dom's podcast. The Dr. Drew podcast has had some really interesting guests on it lately.
You have a psychiatrist this week.
I will be on Where My Mom's At on next week. And there's always After Dark. You can check that out.
Dr. Drew and the Adam and Drew Show.
Adam and Drew show has been interesting lately. Adam has been on quite a lengthy rant. And by lengthy, I mean 3 months.
Go to drdrew.com, find all the podcasts, and then we'll also tweet out when you do these other shows. Post it
Why
on
are
Facebook.
hospitals sending COVID to nursing home? I don't quite know what that question is exactly. Can we safely resume training jiu-jitsu? Oof, that's a little close contact. I'd want everybody to be tested if I were you. I'm going to speak on my Fox. I do a local Fox News program at night at 7 o'clock Pacific. And we're going to be talking to the CEO of, I think, Planet Fitness to talk about how they're going to deal with letting people in, how they keep the equipment clean, how they're going to distance people. So that will be that.
I got an email from Equinox that said my account was still frozen and they were giving me like free stuff or whatever.
Oh, that's nice.
But I was going to cancel it anyways. I tried, but because I just never go.
Yes, then please do that. Please do that.
I miss the place I never go.
Please do that.
I saw somebody tweet that out.
Pennsylvania Secretary of Health said there was no more influenza. Proof that COVID numbers are getting inflated. I don't know quite what that means, Scott. Pennsylvania Secretary said there was no more influenza. That influenza has passed. This is usually gone by this time of year. I don't know why that's proof that COVID numbers are getting inflated. If COVID numbers were inflated, it would have to be because doctors are inflating them. And I don't have any direct knowledge of that. I've heard rumors about that. Should we get our flu shot this year? Absolutely.
Yes.
Why wouldn't you? Now you've learned that you can have 60,000 deaths from the flu, 24 million cases. Do you want to be one of those? We've just shut down an economy over the flu.
Because, and I remember this report, and this was actually a fair report, they don't want us getting the flu and then going to the hospital because they want to be able to take care of the COVID cases in the hospital and also be able to figure out if they're the flu or COVID. So if you've had a flu shot and you're in the hospital and you're sick, there's a better chance that you have COVID. But also they don't want to back up the hospital with flu cases. So get your flu shot. Right? I mean, that's what
what was that?
That's what Fauci said. He
What?
said to get your flu shot because then you'll know that you don't have, if you get sick, you'll know that you have COVID-19.
Oh,
And then they
well,
also
you
don't
can
want
also break through the flu.
Well, they also
vaccine.
don't want people with the flu to go to the hospital
Right.
and take up the bed. So
I see. So use some deductive reasoning if you get the vaccine.
Will have
help.
less flu cases
Right.
is better than, and we have a shot for it, so take it.
So Andrew says, thoughts on states adding positive antibody tests to their total number of cases. My thoughts on that are confused. Generally, I'm confused about this estimated cases that I'm seeing coming along, Andrew. I don't know if that is, I would argue, I talked to Dr. Murray at the University of Washington. He says the estimated cases is related to backing out data from the deaths per day, that somehow they feel that the documented cases are not commensurate with the death rate per day. So they are looking at antibody tests and backing out some model from deaths per day. I don't know what the model is. So generally, I'm confused about estimating what's out there. Unless we have very widespread antibody testing, I don't know what we really learn by just throwing the antibody test into some not well-specified group. I don't know how we use that. Intravenous vitamin C, I would not recommend. I see no benefit for that.
Can I quickly mention too, if you're asking for a size in a t-shirt and I don't have it, I'll give you the closest size to it.
Okay.
You can wear it as a mask.
So you can get an antibody test and they tell you, are you immune? No, they don't tell you that. So Jason, here's the deal. You can get an antibody test. It will tell you whether you have been exposed to the virus. We think that if you have a robust antibody response, you probably have immunity. One of the ways to increase the probability that your antibody count is sufficient to fight off the coronavirus is to get something called viral neutralizing antibodies, which is to send your antibody test to the lab, and they then have your antibodies attack a similar coronavirus. And if they neutralize that coronavirus, that tells you you're probably immune. As I said, I'm working with a company that I think is going to have a more accurate way of documenting immunity above and beyond the antibody response. It's also going to be able to document T cell availability. And it's sort of like, T cells are sort of the army of the immune system, and they can direct the production of antibodies. And so you can kind of measure now, do you have enough in your army, and are they well enough armed? Do they have enough artillery to fight off the virus? That's a technology that's coming. Right now, we just have the antibody, and we have the viral neutralizing antibodies, and the only way we will learn about whether people actually have immunity is experience. And that's why Fauci keeps saying we won't know for sure for 2 years. So there you go. Miami went for 7 days without a murder because of the lockdown. So that's pretty good. UV light does seem to kill the virus, and there are going to be UV lights available you should be taking on aircraft and wherever you go in a car. I think UV light may be a very good way to help sterilize or make the environment more safe that you may be getting into going forward. People's feces test positive after they have recovered. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure that's true. That may be true. I don't know how long they test positive. That was the question. All right, Susan, I think...
Okay, Mitchell had a question what the process was again.
For the T-shirts?
Yeah, so it's contact or drdrew.com/contact. Give me your address, give me your size, and what flavor Hydrolite you want, raspberry, orange, or lemon. And I'll get it out to you by tomorrow.
Okay. Great. And how many did you give out with the disease, with the cysticercosis?
Oh, just one. Sisters, I had 3, and then the other one, I won. So I have 4 T-shirts going out today, and nothing makes me happier.
Okay, so the Acorn is asking HIV-like proteins on the COVID, implications for herd immunity and the way the body battles the virus. I'm not sure I get the question. I mean, there's all kinds of various proteins on the surface of the coronavirus that are potential candidates for target for antibodies and for a vaccine. The thing about HIV is it's very protein. It changes a lot. Corona tends to be rather stable in terms of an antigen creating something that is immunologically active. Okay. Oh, interesting. So, Andrew, tell me about that University of Minnesota study. Is it going to be positive, negative? It's a peer-reviewed study on hydroxychloroquine. Doctors are still using it like crazy. They're still using it. They've gotten direction from some of their medical societies not to use it, which is interesting, or that there's no scientific reason to use it. You tell me, is that University of Minnesota study going to suggest otherwise? I'm anxious to hear what he says. Jason, why are you nervous about the vaccine? You're worried about it actually being efficacious or getting out to market in time? I would happily be a part of the phase 2 trial myself. I think it's going to be, it's an easy putt. I think that mRNA guys seem to have a very good technology. And Andrew, I'm looking for you. You're supposed to, and then I'm going to wrap this thing up. All right. Well, I think I'm not going to get my answer. Susan, I'm going to have to, Andrew Ashkazvili was supposed to give me a report on the University of Minnesota, who has some hydroxychloroquine studies peer-reviewed coming out soon. Oh, there it is. 2 studies. One is a post-exposure and early treatment. Both are placebo-controlled. And is there any hint about the results? So they sound like well-done studies, post-exposure and early treatment, which is really when we think hydroxychloroquine is likely to have its most significant benefit. And it's placebo-controlled, so you'll be able to see if one group is better than the other. Any preliminary, they haven't said if it's positive or negative. All right, well, I will look for that.
Email the link to drdrew.com/contact.
Please, Andrew, I appreciate that very much. I appreciate when you guys refer primary articles to me. I read them, I look at them, I pour through them, I try to expand my understanding of what's going on here.
I also have a lot of emails that I sent you today that I wanted you to look at.
I didn't get them. I did not get them. Okay. I don't know what happened.
All right. Well, next time. Maybe
so
tomorrow we'll read some of the emails. So if you have any really good questions that are a little longer than these small sound bites, email me.
Tim, I've done multiple podcasts on Kratom. I've done it with the Bell Brothers. I've done it and done it and done it. Here. We did a stream too.
Didn't we do You Live?
Yes, we did a This Life You Live a podcast. We did actually 3 of them, I think, on Kratom.
Yeah, and go to drdrew.com and just Google Kratom.
It's controversial. I'm generally nervous about it. Mark Bell thinks it's the greatest thing. It's
that was a Swole Patrol.
Hey Hank, my doctorate is I'm a medical doctor from SC Medical School. I have double boards in internal medicine and addiction medicine. I have 4 associate clinical professorships. One's in psychiatry, one's in addiction medicines, one's in internal medicine, and one is in pediatrics through the adolescent medicine department. I've been working in medicine for 35 years and teaching much of the way as well. Run departments in hospitals, including 20 years running an addiction medicine program as the medical director there. So if you have any other questions, please send them my way. I'd be happy to answer them. Anything else? It's addictive, Joshua. Yes, it is, of course. All right, we seem to be thinning out here. Susan, are we going to do a stream tomorrow?
Yeah, why not? Maybe we'll read some of those emails.
Okay, so we'll come on around tomorrow.
If you have any good emails, you want to ask some questions, just send them to me today, and I'll throw them aside and see what he picks.
Okay, and until tomorrow, probably around this time or so, we'll see you then. And Sunday, what time are we doing the Sunday show with all the guests?
3 p.m.
3 p.m.
Hold on, let me get my banner.
Oh. No, Brian, a troll isn't just someone with an opinion. A troll is somebody with opinion who feels entitled to hurt other people.
Call you names.
Yeah, to hurt people. They seem entitled to harm people. And to me, that's what went down in the French Revolution. And eventually, everybody goes on the guillotine. I think they study your history. Study your history. It does not work well to silence discourse or to insist that you are entitled to harm others merely because of an opinion.
And they mock you and stuff, though.
That's right. Okay, we will see you tomorrow around this time. And then Sunday, what time is Sunday?
3 p.m.
3 p.m. Sunday. All right. Are you one of the millions with a health condition that requires you to use needles? If so, please listen. Disposing of your needles properly is a big responsibility. Accidental needle sticks in the home can injure family members, children, and even your pets. I am Dr. Drew Pinsky, and I have an easy solution for the safe disposal of needles and the end to accidental needle stick injuries. You may have heard about Sand Mini. The Sand Mini is the affordable, foolproof way to dispose of needles. It's FDA approved, and with Sand Mini, it is easy. Just insert the needle, press the button, and in seconds, the needle is incinerated. Now you have a needle that is completely safe to discard. No sharp points, no bacteria, germs, or pathogens. Make sure your home and business is sand safe. Every needle, every time. Go online right now and use our special promo code DREW2020 for our best offer ever on the Sand Mini. That's nomoresharps.com, and remember, use my promo code DREW2020 for our special offer.